Well, Pierce, thank you so much for taking the time, man. Very much appreciated. I know you guys are busy, especially on a game day, so we appreciate you coming by and stopping by for a
Absolutely.
few
Thanks
minutes.
for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so I wanted to start with Father's Day was just a couple days ago from when we were taping this, and we put out a video on Brave Social of the players and the first pitch with your kids, and I just thought you in particular, you and your kids, it was adorable. So what was that moment like for you the other day?
It was super special. This game's so hard because you do spend a lot of time away from your family. So when I do get to spend time with my kids, even if it's just for a short bit before the game, it's a special moment. But for them to throw the first pitch to me, and we all get to enjoy that moment together, that was something I'll never forget.
Oh, that's awesome. So I wanted to talk about your career, your life and career a little bit, and your baseball journey. So you're born in Colorado, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Grew up there as well?
For the most part. So born in Colorado. When I was 6 months old, we moved to San Diego. So
Okay.
my dad was vice president of marketing for the Padres, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So my dad had his career before the Padres. He was doing marketing for the Denver Nuggets, and he was running the NBA All-Star Game. So that famous photo of Jordan Duncan from the free throw line,
Yeah.
we call it the Don Johnson photo because my dad is blue tie, headset, right on the floor. And
Your dad is in that photo?
in that photo.
Holy cow.
I know.
That is one of the coolest flexes I've ever heard.
Right?
Like, yeah, how cool is my job? I'm in that
Exactly.
picture. Oh my
One of the
gosh.
most iconic photos of all time.
Ever.
So he was working the All-Star game, and the Padres were hosting it in '92. And they had nobody with All-Star game experience. And so they were like, we need somebody that, been around this, can kind of do this kind of thing. And so when I was 6 months old, we moved to San Diego, and we lived there for about 8.5 years. So I grew up going to the field. I was watching Tony Gwynn, Trevor Hoffman, all those guys. And then another flex for my dad. He actually helped start Garth Brooks' Teammates for Kids Foundation. So
Wow.
he was VP of that for, I don't know, probably 6 years, and then he was president of that for like another 6 years. So
Was he still based in San Diego for that, or did he go
No,
to Garth's Oklahoma, right?
Garth is in Oklahoma, but the two guys that started it were Bo Mitchell, who's the chaplain for the Rockies,
Okay.
and my dad. And then so my dad moved back to Colorado and brought us with, and then so we spent the rest of our childhood in Colorado.
That's amazing. So when you moved back to Colorado, did you stay a Padres fan, or did that change at some point?
I mean, I think deep down I was a Padres fan, but
Yeah.
because I got to go to the Rockies games, it was cool, going to Rockies games, and then obviously, Padres would come 3 times a year, so we'd always go to those games.
Yeah. Who was your guy? Was it Tony Gwynn?
Oh yeah, my
Yeah.
parents had to call me Tony Gwynn to get my attention when I was younger. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Did you ever get to, you had to have met him at some point, right?
Yes, when I was little, but I don't remember it. But I actually became friends with his son playing in San Diego, which was truly a cool moment and special for me, at least.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I got to meet Tony, I think it was about a year before he passed, briefly, but I mean, it was just 10 minutes, but 10 minutes that I always cherish because just what a man, what a legend.
Right,
So
what a genuine human.
that was the thing. I feel like you can tell you meet people, and you can. I trust my intuition generally with people like that, and I was like, man, this guy's exactly who I thought he was going to be. And it's
Exactly,
awesome. So,
exactly.
all right. So you start playing. When did you start playing ball?
Young age. I mean, I was throwing a baseball with my dad from, the second I could walk and really throw a ball. So, T-ball all the way through, coach pitch to little league to high school to college and now here.
Yeah. When did it start to become apparent that you might be good enough to either to play college ball as you did, or maybe even turn pro? Like I'm fascinated by that. When does that happen? Especially, a kid growing up, you've got so much going on, just the
Right.
changes that are happening in your life, just for any child going into a teenager, going into an adult. But when did that kind of start to get into your radar growing up? Like, hey, I might be good enough to like keep doing this after high school.
I always had the passion for it. But the day I really realized it was probably into my sophomore year of high school, but also at the same time, like I wasn't playing great competition. I went to a smaller school. The competition wasn't as good. But then going into my junior and senior year, I played travel ball, and I was keeping up with guys from all over the country. I was like, maybe this is something for me. And finally you get that recognition and kind of getting schools interested, and then go to college. And obviously highs and lows of college, right?
Sure.
I got my teeth kicked in for a little bit, and then figured some things out, learned work ethic and stuff like that, and then obviously I wanted to get drafted, and I did, and thankfully I'm here.
And you got drafted out of high school too, right? Before you ended up going to college.
I did.
Yeah. Was that a hard decision to go to college instead of turning pro right out of school?
Not really. It was so Tony Gwynn's agent, actually. I had him as an advisor going through the draft the first time, and I had broke my hand my senior year of high school, so I didn't really get to pitch, and I was obviously not going to be a hitter. I mean, that's why I'm pitching. And so, we were like, we're going to go to college unless the draft truly talks us out of it. And, it would have been a great opportunity. It was Tampa, and, obviously they're really good at developing pitchers and good talent. And I didn't know anything about pro ball. I also never left home, anything like that. And I was like, college is probably the best route, physically, mentally, living away from home, all that kind of stuff. And so went to college, and 3 of the best years of my life, and I truly figured out, who I was. I grew as a man, and physically I grew because I was kind of scrawny coming out of high school. And if I would have signed out of high school, I don't know if I would have ever made it. It's a grind, and I have a lot of respect for the young kids that sign and make it and actually have a career, because it's hard. It's really hard, and you're not making a ton of money. You're living off scraps. You're living in dingy hotel rooms and apartments with 6 other guys, and so I'm just glad I took the route I did.
Yeah, Missouri State, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So you went from how did Missouri State become the choice for you? They reached out and you just felt comfortable with them, or how did that happen?
I did. Super comfortable. They were actually the first team to call, or college to call, I should say. And, they had a really good track record. The coach had been there 30-plus years at the time. Pitching coach had been there a long time, and they had a ton of players drafted. They played at the Cardinals AA Stadium, so great facilities. Smaller college town, and obviously, I came from Denver, but I was in the suburbs, so I wasn't like a big city. I was a city kid, but I love the country, and it seemed like the perfect fit. They were very welcoming, and the whole process for me was pretty easy to choose there.
So obviously things go well, because then you get drafted by the Cubs, first round, I believe in 2012. So what was that experience like from then? You're out of college, drafted pretty high up, first round to a pretty historic team. What was that experience like?
It was awesome. It was awesome. It was, I was treated extremely well. I can't thank that organization and the people that took care of me enough. I just didn't exceed expectations. Being a first rounder, there are a lot of expectations.
Sure.
But at the same time, you also get a lot of opportunity. So I got a ton of opportunity, was trying to figure out who I was as a pitcher. And that's hard because, you're trying to compete every day, but at the same time, you're trying to develop as a player and all that kind of stuff. And so, they unfortunately got rid of me, but then I went to the Giants and got a decent opportunity there. And then, I know a lot of people don't understand how the rosters work and, right, options and everything, but ran out of options, got DFA'd from the Giants, and Japan came calling. We've been doing this show for about 6 years now, a couple hundred episodes, talked to a lot of players, past and present, and we've had a few guys on that went and played in Japan, and I'm fascinated by that. One of my favorite baseball movies is Mr. Baseball, where Tom Selleck goes and plays in Japan. And I know it's just a movie. It's probably not very realistic, but maybe that's why I saw that movie as a kid. I'm fascinated by people who are players who've gone over there. So talking about, like, I know how the rosters here work and everything, but how does that work, signing over there? And then what was that like for you? Was that a difficult decision, or just how does that even come about? How does that opportunity to play in Japan even come about? It was the Hanshin Tigers, is that correct? Okay. Yep, correct. So they have scouts over here, following AAA guys, AA guys, whatever it may be. And they had seen me pitch in AAA and a little bit in the big leagues. And I think I was kind of the perfect clientele to attack, because I was someone who didn't have options left. I had big league experience. I obviously had plus stuff, but I hadn't quite put it together yet. Because it's not like they're going to come over here and, poach Austin Riley, right? I mean, that's just not going to happen.
They'd probably like to.
Oh, 100%. They would in a heartbeat. But, there's I think there's a certain honey hole for them where they go for guys that are kind of 4A players, the guys that are, you've been in AAA for a while. If they're a hitter, they show power. If they're a pitcher, they got a plus off speed, maybe a really good fastball, whatever, that they're kind of looking for. And I think each team kind of has a niche, whatever they're looking for. But they called as soon as I got DFA'd, because I think they have access to all that kind of stuff. And I elected free agency, and as soon as I did, had a couple teams from Japan, a couple teams from Korea, and my agent was just like, "Hey, this is a great opportunity. You can go make big league money, pitch in some big time situations, and I think it'd be a great opportunity."
What was the experience like over there? How was it?
I had an absolute blast.
Yeah?
Yeah. And the one thing, the best advice I got from anybody that gave me advice was a couple guys that had played there before me, and they said, whatever you do, jump in with both feet. Because if you don't jump in and you keep one foot in the States, you're not going to get the whole experience. And so I was like, all right, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go, and if I finish my career here, I finish my career here. Because like I said, you can make really good money, and you kind of get treated like a rock star because you only have 4 foreigners per team.
Really? That's a rule?
It's a rule,
Huh.
at least in the big leagues. In the minor leagues, I think you can have as many as you want, but at the same time, you're going to get paid not necessarily big league money if you're in the minor leagues, but you're going to get paid pretty good money. So those teams aren't going to be able to afford your housing and your travel and all that kind of stuff. So they're not going to pay 20 guys. But I want to say we had 3 or 4 in the minor leagues and then 4 in the big leagues. So we had 7, 8 guys. And I had a blast. I learned the language as much as I could. I tried all the food. I traveled to temples and shrines and, just walking around the cities, and it's incredibly clean. We took the bullet train everywhere. It's just we truly jumped in, and my wife and I had a really, really good time.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you were. I know your kids are pretty young, so I didn't know if y'all had started a family yet. But I was going to ask if your wife was able to go with you.
She was. She didn't go for the first month. It was spring training in Okinawa, and then the second month, spring training's in your actual city. So she came out for the second month of spring training and then was there for most of the year, but we actually were pregnant at the time, so it wasn't as enjoyable for her because
Sure.
when you're pregnant and craving food and all you can get is Japanese food, she wanted Shake Shack and Taco Bell and the things pregnant women want.
Right.
So we didn't quite she didn't quite have the best experience, but the things that we did get to do, she had an absolute blast.
All right, I have to ask. This is definitely just a personal question for me because you mentioned Okinawa, so my granddad was in World War II and actually got a Purple Heart in the Battle of Okinawa. So I'm fascinated by the history of Okinawa and then what it has become today. It's wild because I've seen all the footage. I've read everything about the battle and what it was like then. I've seen all the pictures of what it looked like, which a war-torn area. That's what it is. It's horrible. But to see what it looks like now, it's a dream of mine just to travel there someday, just to set foot on the same place where my grandfather once was. So what was, again, this is just for me, Ricky, what was Okinawa like?
It was beautiful. It was, I think it was like Japan's Hawaii. Like the water was beautiful. It was beaches and the food was great and the people were welcoming. And, I can't say I toured, Okinawa a ton,
Right.
but spring training's kind of a grind. And, obviously I was, drinking water from a fire hose, trying to learn the language and try the food and figure out what I liked and, this and that. But I had a great experience. I would love to go back. So you definitely need to go check it out.
Yeah. What was your favorite food that you discovered in Japan?
Oh, well, obviously the sushi everybody talks about, phenomenal. Even the grocery store sushi that comes in, the plastic
Right.
pre-made is fire.
Right.
It's unbelievable. But the steak was, it almost ruined it for me here.
That's what I've heard.
Oh my word.
The
It
Kobe
was-
beef and all that.
Yeah, Kobe beef, Matsuzaka beef. It's just so, you can cut it with a butter knife. It's so tender. It's so flavorful. You really don't even need to season it when we would go to the grocery store and just get the thin steaks from the market downstairs, bring them up, sear them on both sides, and it was fantastic.
My mouth is watering. All right.
Right?
All right. That's where my wife and I need to go on our next trip then.
Yes.
That's amazing. So on the baseball side of things over there, what was the experience like playing there? How was it different, like both in the clubhouse and then the experience in the ballpark, or was it even different? I don't know. And then just as a player, what did you discover and develop while you were over there?
I figured out who I was again as a player. When you're in the minor leagues, you have all sorts of coaches and players and, scouts, front office, whatever, and they're trying to put their fingerprint on you to make you a big leaguer, to make you, be successful. And it doesn't always work that way, and when you're hearing, 50 different things, you're trying to do all these things, but you're also trying to go out there and compete, and you never really figure out, who you are. You're kind of lost in wonderland trying to figure it out. But over there, I was like, you know what? I'm going to pitch the way I want to pitch. I'm going to pitch to my strengths, and I'm going to see where the cards fall. And if I, do terrible and I go home, at least I can hang my hat on the fact that I gave it my all and I wanted to go out the way I want to go out. And when that happened, everything fell into place. So I gained confidence in myself again. I figured out who I was. I really kind of got out of my shell. I was a quiet guy that went over there, and I didn't have a lot of people to speak English to. So I really had to step out of my comfort zone, learn the language, try and get to know my teammates, and obviously try different foods that I probably wouldn't try here in the States if I saw it, right?
Right.
But I figured out who I was, and I think that in itself made me just a better human and a better baseball player.
Oh, that's incredible. So you spend a year there, and then you do well enough that you're not only able to come back and pitch in the big leagues here, but I mean, you come back with a multi-year deal that had to have been extremely fulfilling for you to have gone over there and had that journey and that experience, and then to be able to come back and play and be thought of well enough that, hey, somebody's going to give me a multi-year deal to come back. So how was that like, or what was that experience like for you?
It was fast. Long story short, my wife ended up having an emergency C-section because she flew back home during the season, and we were in the playoffs. So I'm in Japan. She calls me in the middle of the night, which is the middle of the day here, and she's like, "Hey, they're taking the baby. We need to go. Like, you need to fly home right now." So I missed his birth. So I flew home. He was in the NICU for 10 days, and then we were in the playoffs. We won the first series, so I had to fly back. So I was cross country or across the world twice. And then we ended up losing, and I flew home, and, with all of that travel and craziness going on, I was a zombie for a while, needless to say. And so once I kind of got my feet under me again, I became a free agent, but I had a deal to go back to Japan, and we were very close to signing it. But they gave us the opportunity to talk to big league teams, but it was a very short window. And so when that opportunity came, obviously we're elated to come back to the States because it's kind of a goal, right, to come back and play in the big leagues. I mean, that's kind of what you strive for growing up, right? But I was totally content going back to Japan and having a great experience like I did the first time. But it was an absolute whirlwind. But the fact that a team here wanted me and was going to give me an opportunity for multiple years, we were over the moon.
And it was the Padres too, right? Which is kind of full circle and very cool.
That too, right? I mean, growing up a Padres fan and that team showing interest in me was a special moment.
So you're with the Padres for a bit, and then the Rockies, and then just fast forward to last year. So another thing I'm fascinated by, and especially talking to a lot of relief pitchers over the years, there's a lot of guys that get traded at the deadline, especially if you're a good reliever, you're on a team that's not really contending, you're very much in demand. So just curious, when you find out that you're going from a team that's really not contending out in Colorado last year, and you're coming to this team here in Atlanta that is contending and is expected to contend right now, what was that like for you? And how did you find out, and what was that like for you?
So we had just played in Miami, and we had landed in D.C. on a Sunday night. And I actually had blown the game in extra innings against the Marlins. And the next morning, I wake up in D.C. to my phone in my hotel room ringing, not my cell phone, my hotel room, which is, I figured maid wanted to come in and clean, right?
Right.
And it was my GM, and he was like, "Hey, can you come up to my room? I want to talk to you about something." I was like, "Yeah, for sure." So kind of concerned about that because last time I was optioned when that happened, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know what's going to happen." But, they said I had been traded to the Atlanta Braves, and, I mean, wow, what a humbling moment, because we had just played these guys a couple weeks prior, and they just kicked our teeth in all over the yard. I mean, I swear the chop was happening every half inning, and balls were exiting the stadium at Mach 1. It was not a fun series being on the other side.
Sure.
And so a team of this caliber wanting me was truly humbling, and man, I couldn't be more excited.
And then sign an extension to stay. It's great, right?
Right.
Y'all enjoying Atlanta so far?
Loving it. This place is, I've been, as you know, I've been in a lot of places, and this is by far top to bottom best organization I've been a part of.
It's awesome. And that's a great place to stop. Well, thank you so much, Pierce.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can't end on a higher note than that. So really appreciate your time, man.
No
Thank
doubt.
you.
Thank you.